OpenAI's Sam Altman recently made a very stark declaration.
Yeah.
He said, "We are now in the singularity." That distant sci-fi future he imagined a decade ago, he claims it's just here.
Right, and I mean, that's a massive existential claim, but the grounding reality of our deep dive today is actually much quieter. It's, everyday people using AI to just completely ignore their actual job descriptions.
Welcome to the deep dive. We're incredibly glad you're here with us. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating stack of news sources, and we're looking at how AI is accelerating on two completely different fronts. We've got the bleeding edge of superintelligence on one side, and on the other, the honestly incredibly mundane reality of our daily work.
Exactly. We're going to explore some urgent, unprecedented warnings from top AI researchers. We'll look at the billions of dollars quietly flowing into new compute deals. And then, this is my favorite part, we have a massive new OpenAI study that reveals why your current job title might already be entirely obsolete.
It's a lot of ground to cover. But the through line connecting all of this is speed. The technology is just moving faster than our human systems can adapt. Let's start by looking at the frontier. There's a public statement making serious waves right now, titled Pacing the Frontier.
Yeah, and we should be clear, this isn't just some fringe internet petition. Over 11,170 employees and senior researchers signed this. We're talking about the core architects from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Mistral, and Thinking Machines.
That's a staggering roster of talent. I mean, it's basically the entire foundation of modern AI. But what really stands out to me is how they signed it. They signed personally.
Right.
They're acting entirely as individuals, not as company representatives.
Yeah, it bypasses the corporate PR machine entirely. They're speaking as nervous engineers, and they're urging the U.S. government to step in. They want an international system specifically designed for managing automated AI research.
Automated research, that's the crucial phrase here. I want to unpack that because it's not just a buzzword. It's AI conducting its own research to build even better AI. It creates this closed feedback loop. And that loop speeds up frontier development in a way humans simply can't match.
And that compounding speed is exactly what terrifies the people building it. Because it's moving so fast, they laid out two specific demands for governments. First, they want technical systems built immediately.
Like a watchdog system.
Exactly. Systems to act as watchdogs to track dangerous capabilities. They need a way to detect rapid AI-assisted progress in real time.
They essentially need a dashboard for the singularity.
Right. And the second demand is all about governance. They want governance mechanisms actively in place. They need tools that could coordinate or even forcibly slow down frontier development. They want the legal and technical ability to hit the brakes when more time is needed. Time to ensure safety. Time to ensure basic security.
The nuance in their demand is really critical here, I think. They aren't asking for an immediate blanket pause. They aren't demanding a fixed speed limit on innovation. And they certainly aren't drafting a specific law for Congress to pass.
No, it's much more pragmatic than that. They just want governments to prepare the infrastructure. They want the ability to coordinate fully established before a crisis hits.
Right.
Because once a sudden intelligence explosion happens, it's way too late to start building the containment system.
It's like we're building a race car, but these engineers are begging us to install the brakes before we hit top speed, not after.
That's a perfect way to look at it. You don't try to figure out how a braking system works while you're taking a corner at 200 miles an hour.
So, looking at this plea from the researchers, are they worried about the AI itself or our inability to coordinate when it spikes in power?
Oh, it's absolutely about the coordination. The automated research loop means power spikes will happen overnight, and right now humanity has zero systems ready to handle that kind of sudden technological leap.
Right. The danger isn't just the tech. It's our lack of a coordination system.
Precisely. And you can see exactly why they're terrified of this uncontrolled growth when you look at the sheer scale of the resources involved. I mean, the money and the raw computing power currently being dumped into these frontier systems is just astronomical.
It really is. The researchers are terrified because of the capital flowing into the space. Let's look at the infrastructure side of this equation.
Okay, look at a company like Recursive Superintelligence. They recently raised $650 million, and they almost immediately signed a $410 million compute deal with AWS.
$410 million.
Yeah.
Just to rent server time.
Yeah. And here's the absolute kicker. Their CEO, Richard Socher, I casually noted in an interview that this might actually be one of their smallest deals moving forward.
That's a staggering perspective. $500 million is just the ground floor. It really highlights the sheer brute force required to train models at the absolute frontier.
It does. Whoa, imagine scaling to 1 billion queries.
Yeah.
The physical infrastructure alone, the cooling, the power grids, it's mind-bending. And it isn't just recursive. Look at Elias Sutskever's new venture, Safe Superintelligence.
Sutskever is such a fascinating figure in this ecosystem. After leaving OpenAI, his focus is now entirely, exclusively on safety.
And that singular focus is attracting massive capital. Word is NVIDIA might invest up to $5 billion into Safe Superintelligence. They've reportedly seen some very promising, undisclosed research that justifies that kind of check.
NVIDIA is brilliantly positioning itself everywhere. They're funding the closed frontier models, but they're also leading a new alliance focused on promoting open source AI for cybersecurity. They're hedging their bets across the entire spectrum of the technology.
Which is smart because while the big players are building massive centralized brains in the cloud, there's a massive shift happening at the exact same time, and it's moving in the complete opposite direction.
Yes, this is where it gets really interesting for the rest of us. The sheer accessibility of this computing power. It's no longer just trapped in massive multi-million-dollar server farms. It's becoming entirely local. It's sitting right on your desk.
This changes the entire paradigm for everyday users. Take Perplexity, for example. Their Windows app just rolled out a feature called Personal Computer.
I love that name. It's a very clever retro callback.
It really is. But mechanically, it's a local agent system. It works quietly across your local files, it connects deeply into the Microsoft ecosystem, and it still seamlessly accesses the open web when it needs to. It essentially brings the vast reasoning power of the cloud directly onto your physical hard drive.
Let's define what we mean there. A local agent is just a digital assistant running entirely on your own computer's physical hardware. Think of it, well, it's like stacking Lego blocks of data right on your own hard drive, instead of renting those Legos by the hour from a massive cloud warehouse.
That's exactly how it feels. And independent developers are making this architecture incredibly easy to set up. One developer just released an insanely simple plug-and-play memory system for these agents.
I saw this in the notes. The elegance of it is beautiful. Explain how this actually works.
So normally, an AI has to reread your entire document history every single time you ask it a question, which eats up massive amounts of memory and processing power.
Right.
But this developer fixed it using just 2 text files and 6 commands. That's it. It keeps the AI agent's full history corralled inside one fixed document. You can install the whole thing in 3 lines of code, and it gives these local agents instant long-term memory. It just checks its own little diary instead of scanning your whole hard drive.
And because it's local, the cost barriers to entry are just evaporating. Look at what Cursor is doing right now.
Cursor's making massive strategic moves. They just aggressively cut their monthly price in India. It's now 649 rupees a month. That is far below their standard $20 Pro tier that we see in the US.
India has roughly 27 million GitHub developers. It is a massive, incredibly skilled market.
And Cursor's local user base there has already grown more than 3 times this year alone. They are actively democratizing access to top-tier coding AI by pricing it for the local economy.
But having cheap access is one thing. The most disruptive part of this trend is when the compute itself becomes functionally free.
Yes, this blew my mind. The team at Atomic Agent ran a local benchmark test. They used an open-source model called Kimi K3, and they pitted it against a top-tier, expensive corporate model called Fable 5. They tested them on playing 3 different 3D arcade games.
Okay, so they're running complex, continuous visual tasks, not just text generation.
Exactly. But they ran the Kimi K3 model entirely locally. Instead of massive server farms, they just used 8 standard B300 GPUs. The kind of hardware a medium-sized office might actually own.
Mm-hmm.
And the result, the free local Kimi K3 completely matched the reasoning quality of the expensive cloud model. But they did it with a $0 API spend.
Okay, I have to push back a little here. $0. That can't be entirely right.
Yeah.
You still have to buy the 8 GPUs, which aren't cheap. And you have to pay the electric bill to keep them running. The compute isn't actually free, it's just a shifted cost. Right?
That's a fair point, yeah. The capital expenditure is real, but it's about the marginal cost. Once you own that hardware, the continuous, ongoing cost of the AI thinking drops to 0.
I see.
You aren't paying a giant tech company every time your agent reads a line of code. You completely bypass the massive metered costs of traditional API calls.
That completely flips the economic model of software.
So I have to ask, does running these models locally actually change how we trust the AI?
Absolutely, because all your private data stays on your machine, totally away from corporate servers, and you kill off those massive recurring server costs.
So local agents give you total privacy and cut out massive server costs. Precisely. And this leads us to the biggest societal shift of all. Because when you take incredibly powerful, functionally cheap local tools and you drop them onto everyone's desktop, it fundamentally rewires what workers actually do all day.
Sponsor. We'll be back. We just spent some time discussing the massive decentralized power of local agents. Now we need to look at what actually happens when you hand that kind of raw capability to the average corporate worker.
This is where the story gets really wild. OpenAI just released a massive new behavioral study. They analyzed over 800,000 work-related ChatGPT messages from users across the U.S.
800,000 messages. That is a massive data set. It's a real unfiltered window into actual human workflow.
Yeah, they were specifically looking for a phenomenon they call task crossover.
Let's define that clearly. Task crossover is when people use AI to do work that is normally associated with an entirely different occupation. It's a marketer doing legal work or a designer writing code.
Right. It's the total blurring of professional lines. And the numbers they found are staggering. Across the board, 16.8% of all work-related messages involved crossover tasks.
That sounds somewhat modest at first glance, roughly 1 in 6 messages.
But wait, because that 16.8% includes all the generic stuff. Writing polite emails, scheduling meetings, summarizing long, boring documents. Literally everyone does that.
Right. That's just basic administrative overhead that doesn't really prove anything.
Exactly. So when you remove those generic activities, the data shifts dramatically. They filtered the data to look strictly at occupation-specific messages, things that require real expertise. And a massive 43.5% of those specialized messages fell entirely outside the user's usual job.
2-sec silence. Nearly half. Nearly half of all specialized, complex work people are doing with AI actually belongs in someone else's job description.
It completely shatters the entire idea of a traditional job role. And OpenAI was incredibly strict with this data. That 43.5% only applies to messages they could definitively connect to a specific hard-skill occupation.
Let's break down who is actually doing this. Which professions are crossing over the boundaries the most?
Customer experience workers lead the entire pack. A staggering 77% crossover rate.
That is incredible to think about. Over 3/4 of their specialized AI use is completely outside their actual job title.
Designers are right behind them at 75%, HR workers are at 69%, legal workers at 56%, and marketers sit at 53%.
Let's just ruminate on that customer experience worker for a second. Because traditionally, a CX rep is answering support tickets. They're smoothing over rough edges with frustrated clients. But armed with an AI agent, they're suddenly querying complex SQL databases to find a bug.
Yeah.
They're writing Python scripts to automate a batch of refunds. They're rewriting technical product documentation based on user feedback and pushing it live.
They're literally doing mid-level engineering work. And the study specifically noted this trend. Marketing and engineering tasks spread the most widely across all other professions.
It makes logical sense when you think about it. Every single department needs to communicate effectively. That's marketing. And every single department needs to solve technical bottlenecks. That's engineering.
The real-world examples they pulled from the data are fascinating. Everyday employees are doing complex financial modeling. They're reviewing dense vendor contracts. They're deeply analyzing customer data sets that used to require a data scientist. They're building internal websites.
And the key here is they're doing it instantly. In practice, a marketer might troubleshoot a broken website redirect using an AI, fix the code, and push it live without waiting 3 agonizing days for an IT ticket to clear.
A sales team can run a complex sentiment analysis on their latest customer data. They don't need to beg the data science team to build them a custom dashboard anymore.
A small business employee might handle basic legal structuring or financial forecasting on a Tuesday afternoon. They completely bypass the traditional corporate gatekeepers. It's a profound shift in efficiency. But we have to acknowledge, it also creates a massive structural challenge for quality control.
Oh, absolutely. It's not all sunshine and perfect code.
I'll make a vulnerable admission here.
Yeah.
I still wrestle with prompt drift myself. You ask an AI to rigorously review a contract for legal liabilities, and 3 prompts later, it's enthusiastically giving you marketing advice instead of legal caveats. It loses the plot.
Right. The tools are incredibly powerful, but they require serious, continuous steering. You have an army of amateurs doing professional-level work. You have to monitor the output constantly, or things break.
Which naturally brings us to the new ecosystem of tools emerging to manage this exact problem. Because if everyone is doing everyone else's job, management needs new safety nets.
Exactly. Let's look at a new tool called Prefactor.
Prefactor, they monitor your AI agents in real time, right?
Yes. They catch quality issues and performance drops in the background before they ever affect your actual users. It acts like an automated supervisor for your automated workflows. It ensures the marketer writing code doesn't accidentally break the main website.
Then you have tools like Sekera. They focus heavily on the voice and chat agents that handle customer interactions.
Sekera is brilliant. It automatically tests, fixes, and improves those conversational agents. It finds the dead ends in the conversation, updates the underlying prompts, and validates every single change. It's basically automated quality control for your AI support staff.
And it's not just about monitoring the AI's mistakes. It's also about streamlining the messy new ways humans have to work. Take a platform like Hardbook, for example.
Hardbook is perfect for this new era of the cross-functional freelancer. It lets clients book your availability, scope the project, and sign the binding legal contract in one single fluid step.
It elegantly combines scheduling and legal compliance. It helps a solo freelancer close a deal immediately. No more endless email follow-ups trying to bridge 3 different software platforms just to get a signature.
It all comes back to speed, removing the friction between having an idea and executing it.
So, thinking about this 43.5% crossover rate, if everyone is doing everyone else's job, do traditional departments even exist anymore?
They're definitely dissolving because when a single employee can execute design, code, and legal review all at once, those rigid corporate silos just become dead weight.
Basically, AI is turning single employees into entire cross-functional micro-departments.
That's exactly what's happening. The traditional boundaries are completely disappearing.
Let's take a step back. Let's look at the big picture we've painted today. We are caught between 2 massive fundamental shifts in how human knowledge operates. At the very top, at the bleeding edge of the frontier, things are moving so fast it's legitimately terrifying the architects building it. Leading researchers are practically begging governments to build coordination systems. They see the automated research loops, they see the billions of dollars pouring into brute force compute, and they know that superintelligence could scale out of control before we even have a dashboard to measure the spike.
And at the exact same time, down at the very bottom, everyday workers are armed with their own local revolution. They have incredibly capable agents running quietly on their desktops. They have zero marginal cost computes, and they're casually dismantling traditional job boundaries every single day to get their work done.
It's a pincer movement on the status quo. The top is accelerating and the bottom is democratizing.
So look at your own workflow today. Look at the tasks you completed this morning. Ask yourself, what professional boundaries are you already crossing without even realizing it?
It's a critical question. And it leaves us with something much deeper to consider as we close out. If AI allows a graphic designer to seamlessly do a software engineer's job, and if it allows a mid-level marketer to do a corporate lawyer's job, what happens when massive companies fully realize this? Will they stop hiring for specific hard skills entirely? Will they start hiring purely for adaptability to AI? What does your resume actually look like when your primary, most valuable skill is just task crossover? Outro music.